Okay, guys. So we started off by speaking about development. We talked about social development. We talked about spiritual and religious development. And I ended up last time by speaking about the logbox, the theory of the logbox. Can anyone remind us of what is the theory of the logbox in relationship with spiritual development? Like,
say you're like a university student or a teenager, you go to school during the week. So you'll go to liturgy on Sunday or services during the weekend. And then when it comes Sunday night, you'll put your Christian persona or faith into a lockbox and you forget all about like your service and your faith for like during the week. And then when it comes Friday night, when you have to go to church or Saturday morning, you open the lockbox and you put back the Christian cloak.
right on. This is actually these are the results of findings. These are results of the Barna surveys that were done in the US, as well as the NSYR. I think that's what it's called. It is a survey that was done on thousands of youth, and they discovered that there is something that these youth are doing in America whereby they're not doing it in a deceptive way. It's just that when they're in the compartment of church, they're churchy. When they are in the compartment of school, they're like secular. And so that group that did the survey, the researchers behind this, they came up with this lockbox theory, which is quite interesting. Tells you that people are being delayed in their adolescent development when it comes to spirituality. It tells you that there is something that the church community, the parents, the youth themselves need to do in order to own their faith and not to remain in the faith of their parents. It's my parents' faith. No, this is now has become my faith. That voice has become my own voice, not the voice of someone else. So this is critical as we um, counsel youth, as we speak to youth, as we serve youth in their ministries. How is it that every stage, every grade, as they move up, how do we help them own their faith? That's so important, that ownership. And we talked about it. You guys did some wonderful and amazing, amazing group work last time, where we looked at Deuteronomy and we looked at the Psalms and we looked at Hebrews and we talked about what is faith development. We talked about what is being asked of the community to do. And it had to do with something from old, speaking to something today. It had to do with faith being faithful. Faith is tested by trials. You would not know, your chemistries or your math, whether you're doing well at work or not, unless there is a test of a sort. And so the test of our faith is what shows the core of our faith. And so it's good, not necessarily, it's essential that we teach youth from a very young age that faith is tested through difficult times. Because what we encounter is people, adults or youth, when they go through a hard time, the first thing they do is they turn and say, God, do you really exist? And they miss the whole point. Faith is about being faithful despite the trials. In fact, not despite, because of the trials, your faith shows. And those who understand this, they embrace trials, they embrace sufferings. It's hurtful, but they understand it's part of their spiritual journey. Today, we're shifting gears and we're going to talk about counseling. So, the first thing that we will cover in our first session is model of counseling. So, I'm going to give you a tool. How do we counsel? What's the framework when you sit with someone? And counseling isn't really a formal, meeting with a counselor, a therapist, and signing papers. That's not something you will do. You are more of a spiritual. This is pastoral care or a spiritual counseling, that is. So it's not clinical. It is not, you're not under any association. But anytime you meet with someone, it's an opportunity to listen to them and to speak to them and to help them out. That's a form of counseling. Okay? It's not clinical. It's not formal, but it's a form of counseling. So, counseling, here's a model. There are many models, but most of them would fall under a general model. So I'm going to sit down so you can see the screen. You all have access to this, by the way, on Moodle. So it's under session 2, and you will see here, there is a link to the Prezi presentation that you see here. So you can think of counseling or an encounter with someone in terms of phases. The first phase, what we call the connect phase. People will not, youth will not listen to you unless they connect with you. Because trust is the key element of any counseling relationship. And also, you will not find this in the book. So this is not in the book. At one point maybe in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, research was all after what method to use. Any of you familiar with CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy? So CBT came out, and then Rogerian therapy came out, and then other types of therapy, and then there was all this struggle: which method works? Which one is better than the other? And then they discovered through research that there is something called the common factor element, which is actually all these theories, they work so well because they have a common factor element. And these were 4 of them. One of them is called the therapy relationship, the connection. If you don't have a connection, whatever you try with the youth will not work. It's obvious, but research is behind it. So the first phase is connect phase. So I give you here an acronym. When you connect, how do you connect? Can you tell me on your own, speaking with someone that you've connected with, whether it be a servant or a friend, what do you think was necessary or what happened that helped you connect? There's a mutual interest. Can you elaborate on what that means? Okay. Right. That's a good point. So a mutual interest. Mari. Being non-judgmental is very important. And that's hard because sometimes a youth would come to you and speak about stuff that you're completely against. And you feel like you're almost obliged to say, this is wrong, you cannot continue doing this. You got to hold yourself back, not because you agree with what they're doing, but because you have to start being non-judgmental, listening so you can draw them to speak more, to feel safe. They know it's wrong. It's more 99% of the times, they already know it's wrong. But they need to be drawn to open up and speak and open up and listen. Okay, that's an excellent point, Mariam. What else? What else can help you connect in a conversation? Peter. Body language. That's right. More so than the words, by the way. More so than the words. So I'll give you here the acronym SOLVERS. SOLVERS. S for squarely. It helps when you sit in front of someone squarely. You look at them. You're not giving them your side. You'll all be tested on this, by the way, with Abuna Butros. So you gotta remember this. You have to sit in front of someone, and it's almost like you mirror them. So can I get 2 volunteers here? Mariam, okay, one more there. So I get you to sit here. Yeah. What does squarity look like? Yes, almost like that. That's right. So you're looking at each other, mirror one another. So try and mirror her. Doesn't have to be perfect, but yes. You see her hands are like this, your hands are like that. If she goes like this, that tells you something. she's rejecting, or she's closing off, or she feels I need to defend. Yes, something maybe you said that kind of got her to be concerned. And it's normal we go like this. Like this, it's like I feel safer like this. Okay, so this is squarely. You look at the person with an open stance, and you lean forward. So when I'm talking to you, so you're talking, so I'm going to ask you to, you're talking to her, you got to lean forward. How do you do that? Yes. That, what does this say? As long as the distance is safe, of course. You don't want to be like this. What does this say when she leans forward? You, I'm interested. I'm interested. What you're saying is important. Okay. Um, okay. So squarely, openly, leaning forward, verbal tone is supportive. So I want you to speak to Perry about a problem you had at work. Imagine just a problem you had at work.
I have a problem with my coworkers who always gossip. And it just is destroying my confidence and always in my head, and I feel like I can't concentrate and in other things.
So do you have anybody at work that you feel close with or that you're friendly with that you can
Well,
hang out with more?
I am the new girl, and we are all taking sides, and so I think to know about my life and building stories in their heads and just gossiping.
Mhm.
It's like toxic.
So Perry, thank you for giving an example here. Perry's trying to help her. What did you notice Perry do? She started giving advice, solutions, right? Hmm. Don't need to do that. Huh? You need to listen, and you need to let the person in front of you know that you're listening. And part of doing that is your tone of voice. So give me a tone of voice that reflects someone who is not listening. So continue on, say that last part you said, and then I want you to respond to her whichever way you want. It doesn't matter, but with a tone of voice that is not a tone that's going to invite someone to connect with you. Okay, good.
So I feel like I'm the new girl, and we all like moving together just to know anything about me and building their own stories just for the love of God.
Good.
Yeah, so she was somewhere else, that's one thing. And she was, you notice she spoke very fast? Okay, so in counseling, when you sit with someone, they're already very fast, and that's part of the problem. So you really have to slow them down, and the way you do that is by you slowing your tone and your rhythm down, just exactly as I've just done right now. Okay, so let's try this again. Now, squarely, openly, leaning forward. The V for verbal tone is supportive. Eye contact. So imagine you're talking about an issue you have. So talk about an issue you have with a friend, let's say, and I want you to give her an indication that you're really not listening. Imaginary.
No, but you're better at that.
An issue you have at work.
That's easier.
That's easier.
Okay. Work has been really, I've been under a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations. Patients are really difficult to deal with, very impatient.
You see that? So she's obviously not mirroring her. She took a tilt, she took a side, she gave her side, and even her facial expressions were different. Okay. Eye contact. You need to be relaxed. You need to really take it easy in a session like this. And you need also to be able to use silence. So I need another two people. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Any two people. Barry and Mariam, they really they 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 took it for the team, but we need another two. If you actually come up here, you don't have to do the case study later on. I'm just kidding. Still have to do the case study. Oh, too bad. One more, Peter. Okay, so you're the youth coming in, you're the counselor, okay, you're one of the servants, and you're coming in because um, you're very upset at someone who's been really upsetting you and bullying you in church. And they've been really, really, they've texted stuff about you and you're not happy. And it's causing you sadness, hurt. You don't want to come to church again. What I'm asking you is, I want to see the solvers. Okay? So I want to see you squarely sitting, openly, leaning forward. I want to hear the tone of voice. I want everyone to hear the tone of voice. Eye contact, relax. And when silence is needed, let's see if you can bring it in to this discussion. Improvise.
Well, my friend bullying, he's not my friend anymore actually. He's bullying me, and they're all making fun of me, so I'm really sad. And I don't like going to church anymore. Because they keep making fun of me
Mm.
and everything. So yeah, it's really sad. Have you told anyone? I'm telling you, yeah. This person will call me. Sorry.
Imagine a youth comes to you, and it's not about you, Peter, but imagine a youth comes to you and gets all this stuff inside out of it. You start laughing. That's beautiful. But take it serious. Let's switch roles. You're the youth, he's the counselor. Give him a hard time.
I've decided that I'm not going to come to Sunday school anymore because every single time I go, people keep talking about me, and it's just a toxic environment. Nobody's here for church. Nobody's doing anything right. The class is boring, and I just don't like the people. Listen, I know what you're saying. I feel you. I can hear what you're saying, and it makes sense. Sometimes Sunday school is boring, but it's about you at the end of the day. It's not about anyone else. We come here for you and for you to benefit. So, make sure that whenever you come, if those people are bothering you, you can come talk to me whenever I'm around. Come talk to me, let me know, and we can try to find solutions to their problems.
So pause. Remember, phase one is about what? Connect. I want you to connect. I don't want you solving anyone's problem. I want you to work very hard on connecting. I want you to be real. Okay? Because I know with your friends, you probably do an easier job connecting. So just connect. Think of ways and things. You have these acronyms to help you, and you have other things that you've experienced in life. Connect. He needs to connect with you. Because if you start telling him, hey, listen, this is about church, it's about God, we're here for you. So what you're this guy doesn't know anything. And I'm just saying, at the end of the day, you're just connecting, you're not solving anything. So let's switch roles. You're coming in and you're helping.
Yeah, they made fun of me last week because I said he was bad at basketball, and now they just don't invite me to moments anymore. Yeah, that was really hard.
What's that? What did he just do? Huh? Hmm? What? Yeah, understanding is something that Father Butchers will speak to you about. That skill called empathy. When you said
That sounds really hard.
that sounds really hard, versus say I understand. I really understand is not bad, but to say I completely understand, maybe you don't completely understand. Maybe you've never been in that situation. But to say this is hard, this must be very hard for you. This is very good. Good. Mhm.
I'm just saying because I've been through the same things and I can kind of sense what you're going through, but I can't imagine how you feel right now. You know? Okay, so what did you go through? Similar situation where my friends, who I thought were my friends, um, kept excluding me from things, and um, and I found out that they were making fun of me behind my back, and I just felt really secluded.
So what is Peter doing now? What's that called? But he's doing something else. Who's he talking about now? Yeah, so what's that called? Disclosure. He's doing a disclosure. Disclosure has to be done very carefully. Like in this case, it's okay because now you're disclosing something of your own. Say, this guy comes and says, I did such a big sin. And you say, oh, I understand. I've done the same thing just yesterday. Huh? That sometimes, actually, in a lot of times, is going to put this person here in a more difficult situation. It's not going to help him. Says, oh, if my servant did it,
What's the problem?
that's no big deal, right? Like at least there's just the justification, self-justification that can happen. But what Peter did here was good. Is he's relating something simple, straightforward, and he is trying to do this disclosure carefully. For whose sake? For Gabriel's sake. Okay. Peter's tone of voice was calming. How would I use silence? So let's say I want you to ask him, so you are now the counselor. I want you to ask this youth a question that he may not easily answer.
So what are they making fun of you about? What's hurting you the most? Or- Wait, sorry, it might be.
You are okay. I have to take this call. I'm sorry. One of the ladies is calling. Sorry, excuse me.
They're ones that listen, if you don't, if it's hard to say, you don't have to answer.
If you ask the question, you don't want him to answer. Well, you ask the question. Can silence be helpful? The answer is yes. Silence in a session or in a time where you're sitting with someone can be quite helpful, especially if the person is reflecting. And you don't have to rush. They say you could wait up to about 28 seconds. That's a long time. That's a long time. But sometimes you gotta wait. So it's like, uh, can you tell me what did they say about you? What really hurts?
Um, I don't know. There's just so many things.
Did you notice what he had to do? What did I have to do? You know when there is an awkward silence, people feel the urge to say something. Let it not be you. Allow silence up to 28 seconds, they say, huh? To put that type of soft pressure in a way, let the youth reflect. So as we were just silent, you felt the urge to say something, and I also felt the urge to say something, but I didn't because I'm okay with silence. It's okay to be okay with silence because it allows people to open up, think about what's going on inside of them, and then speak. If after 20 seconds, nothing happens, says, this must be hard for you to answer. Is it difficult for you to answer? Is that why you're finding it hard to say something? Yeah?
I just don't like thinking about it.
Yeah. Thinking about it is something that you're trying to avoid. Yeah. And yet you've come to talk to me today about it. which is a lot of courage. What am I doing? What did I just say to him? Right, you can get him. Thank you. Despite the problem, people are resilient. And this is a God-given thing. We're created with resilience from God. And so it's important that as you try and connect, that you also try and find out the positive story. There is something strong. This person is coming and saying, "Oh, I'm all weak. I'm not coming to church anymore. This has been horrible. I'm devastated. I am completely hurt." And all you think about, "Oh my goodness, the person in front of me is destroyed." Well, for one, he's come to talk to you. What does this say about the person? It tells you something positive about the person. They have some resilience. They have some strength. They've come to open up about it. They're probably looking for some help. So there's a lot of good going on. And part of connecting is you have to bring about those strength area that you see in the person in front of you. Okay. Yes.
I was just gonna say the last thing that you said was a good nudge for the person.
It was a soft confrontation.
It was like they wanted to close off again.
Yes. Yeah. What I did was something called soft confrontation, which is he says, "I don't want to talk about this." I said, I can hear this is difficult for you. So what did I do? I went with them. This is hard for you. So now you say, okay, he understands this is hard. And it's interesting how you're the one who's come to talk about it. And that, so if I would have stopped at that, he may have thought, oh, he's cornering me. So instead of leaving him, I could leave him in the corner if I wanted to, if I have the relationship to do that. But I don't have the relationship yet. So what I said is, and yet you've come to talk to me, and that shows a lot of courage. So here I've, again, bonded over something positive. Okay, so the first thing is phase one is connect phase. Don't be too quick to solving anyone's problems. They probably, and women will tell you this, when women speak to their men, like when wives speak to their husbands, they're not looking for solutions 90% of the times. They're not looking for solutions. They found this as a gender-specific communication style. What are they looking for? When a wife goes to her husband and says, "Today my boss was horrible, and today my boss, he made me feel stupid," and immediately husbands go to what? What happened? Tell me what he said. What you said. Oh, you should have answered this way. And 99% of the time, she'll tell everything he will offer as solution, she will shut down. She knows what she needs. She probably did it already and did it, masterfully, like really well. But she wants her husband to listen and make sure he tells her she's not crazy. Like she's not really completely out. She's looking for validation. Actually, this on the gender level, but even with people need to be validated. You don't need to condone something wrong, but you can validate someone who says, "I'm hurt because people here in the church, they're unbelievable. They're not coming here for God." There's a bit of judgment there. You may not fully agree with that. Say, "Wow, this is big what you just said. This is big. This is how you feel, that they're not here for God, and it sometimes feels like they're there just gossiping and talking, and it's not a good place. Is that how you feel? That's okay." So connect is phase one. Don't try and solve. Phase two, collect. Again, when we're not trained, we're very quick at trying to help someone with solutions. But when you're trained, the first thing you do is connect. Take your time. Take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, take a whole session, take a whole time to connect if you want. But then after that, you don't jump to solutions either. What do? You collect information. You don't know when he's bullied, how he's bullied, who's he bullying, what does he define as bullying. You might actually hear from him say, every time, I push this guy, he pushes me back. That's not bullying. Are you bullying him? Like, what's going on here? Self-defense? What's happening? So you don't know anything. So you need to collect information. Here I give you the acronym biospheres. Biospheres. Behavioral. So when he sent a text about you, what did you do? Do is behavior. Intellectual. What did you think? Organizational. So what happened? Who did what? When who did what? And what's going on in terms of just the organization of things. Spiritual. He says to you, people who come to church, they don't come for God. That's a spiritual statement. You could work with that and say, wow, that's heavy for me to hear that. That's heavy. It must be very heavy for you too. Um, what are your thoughts about what are your thoughts when you come in on Friday night? Intellectual, but it's going to lead to something spiritual. Regardless, you could say, do you have a father of confession? Have you talked to someone about this? Did you take advice from someone about this? Then there is physical. You ask about, uh, wow, I can see you tearing up. That's physical. When you get these thoughts and they begin to really trouble you because you think you're a nobody, because people bully you all the time, and you begin to be anxious, where do you feel it in your body? And some people will tell you, I feel it right here in the chest. I feel like a tightness around my chest. Other people will say, I feel my head is hot. Other people will say, my hands become very cold. These are important. Why do you think the physical is important? Tell me more. Right.
They might have actually physical problem that needs to
Maybe. But you're right about the depth of the problem.
part. The guy is very emotional. It's everything inside him.
Right.
The one in the brain, they even sometimes like you think about something, you can't even see.
Yes.
Controlling.
Right.
The hand, I don't know, this is the one that acts like just
When the hands are cold, where's the blood? So physically, where did the blood go? It went into what they call the viscera. It went into the center part of a person. Why? What's at the center? Yeah, the heartbeat is fast. Exactly. Heart and body system is very intelligent. Where the blood is needed, it goes. Is it really needed in your hands when you're anxious? Nope. It goes into the core, right? So these are important because it tells you there are physical symptoms of the anxiety that they're going through, for example. Or they have what they call psychosomatic. Psychology, soma means flesh, means whatever you're feeling is coming out on your body. It says, hey, I don't know, Abuna, I've been having the stomach pain for a very long time and I don't know where it's coming from. And I've gone to my doctor and I've done this and I've done that. I don't know what to do. And I say, well, tell me a little bit about your day-to-day life. What's going on? And you discover, for example, they're under so much stress that the stress has caused them increased acidity, let's say, in their stomach. So it's so real. Your emotions impact your body. We only think sometimes that the body is impacted by real things, like emotions are not real. No, emotions are very real. They can give you headaches. I'm sure you've experienced that. When you are stressed about something, you have a headache, you have a cluster headache, you have insomnia, you can't sleep. Here's another physical, and so on. Your heart beat, like your heart rate can increase, and so on. So, historical. Were you bullied when you were younger? Did this happen when did this start? So you're asking history related questions. Emotional. So when that person texted this stuff, how did you feel? Relational. How is this impacting your relationship with other people in the church? How is this impacting your relationship with God? That's a relational question. Environmental. So here again, we're talking about the environment, about the space. Where did this happen? Oh, it happens in the gym all the time. And sensual. Sensual has to do with sensations in general. These sensations could obviously be bodily sensations, or they could be broader than that. Like say, every time my mom tells me you gotta go to church, I begin to really sense like I get this strong sense of doom coming on me. By the way, what we're discussing is real and has happened with many youth. So you didn't come up with something that didn't happen. There are youth who dread coming to youth meetings because of what other youth do to them. So this was a very realistic. So collecting phase, um, behavioral. You're asking behavioral question, intellectual. You can ask organizational, feeling questions, spiritual, physical. You can ask relational questions, historical, uh, uh, sensual, and so on. Just biospheres might remind you with this. Okay, that's the second phase. The third phase is check-in phase. So now you're beginning to wonder, what's the problem? What's going on? So I can understand someone being bullied, but how is the connection being made with bullying and coming to church? Well, in your mind, say, but that's obvious because wherever they're being bullied, they don't want to go. Well, sure, yes, but are they being bullied at school? Maybe. Do they go to school? Yes. Why? Well, because they're forced. Well, maybe yes, but that's all hypothesis. This is all in your mind. You don't know. So here you're checking in. Is your problem more with such and such person, or is your problem with the whole group of youth, or is your problem with the fact that your servant saw this and didn't do anything? Or what's the problem? We assume problems, but we've got to listen to what the problem is from the individual themselves. And then you have to test your hypothesis. So someone, for example, different than this question, she broke up with her boyfriend. And this has been a very tough time for her. And she's going through such an emotional turmoil. And she's crying all the time. She's not sleeping very well. She stopped coming to liturgy. She's a 15, 14 year old, 14-year-old, grade 9. And she started to meet up with other guys, just random guys in school. What's the problem? Obviously, you don't know everything, but what is the problem? What do you think what do you think the problem is? So that we call this maladaptive behavior. It's a maladaptive behavior. She is behaving in a certain way to try and help herself. Because if she can actually get the attention of other guys, if the problem inside of her is, I could never get a guy because I'm not beautiful, because I'm not worth it, because I'm just nobody. And I knew this about myself when I was little. And my friend this, my friend that, everybody had their attention on so and so. My parents, they love my older sister, my younger sister, whatever. You never know what's going on inside. But if that's the case, then maybe she's engaging in maladaptive behavior that is maintaining the problem. So you're testing your hypothesis. What what would be something you could ask this 14-year-old to test your hypothesis? Tell me what your hypothesis is first, and tell me what you will ask. She started dating random guys. Her parent caught her, texting or sexting. Hmm.
My hypothesis is that her and her original boyfriend probably got into a physical nature of their relationship, and now she's acting out.
Okay. Why would she act out? Okay, so she's in a lot of shame. And what would be a question you would ask to understand what's going on? So you have a hypothesis.
Would it be like more of a confrontational question, like did he do
Remember, we are in a collecting phase,
Okay.
and then now you're checking in. So you can go to collecting. Anybody could help you. I don't want to put you on the spot. Megan? Hmm.
Feel like I'll never be able to
Hmm.
come again, made me feel like I was being used, and that would help too, especially the fact that she's seeking validation also.
I like that question. How did your recent breakup make you feel? It's open enough. It's an open-ended question. It's not a yes or no answer, close-ended. Try and ask open-ended question. How did your recent breakup make you feel? And then from there, she can open up and she can talk. And then maybe from there, you can ask another question, but you have a hypothesis in mind. Okay. What else? Okay. So Perry, your question is good. It has its place, but is it open or close-ended? It's closed. Do you? So anything that begins with that type of verb, the answer will be yes or no. Or the most famous answer of all, I don't know. Right? I don't. But there is a time for it. When you want to zoom into something after you've been asking a lot of open-ended questions and now you're almost there, you can say, so I just want to make sure I understand this. It's always nice to start with your intention of the question. I want to just make sure I understand this, and make sure that that's what's going on with in your mind or with you. Do you dot dot dot? Okay.
were you really sorry, not were you really? You must have felt really in love with that person. And
So So by me commenting on your stuff, I don't mean anything about you personally, but you are giving me so much, platform. Yeah, you are leading the witness, or you may be superimposing again. So you're putting your own thought. So when you say you must have felt this or that, no, never assume. Always say, how did you feel about this? Or you can say something like, when I hear you say this, I almost feel like if I were in your shoes, I may, not must, I may feel this.
Yeah.
What was it for you? Okay, that's a little bit of leading, but it's soft leading. Right? Okay. You're actively listening. What's active listening? I need someone to come up here and do role play with me. You're gonna do role play more with Abu Nabutros on this one. Someone to come up here. No, no, I think someone else. And we have to keep getting people out of their seats. Please, come on. So I am the youth. I'm the one coming in, and I am coming in, and I have an issue with a servant because that servant uh, yelled at me, and I was very upset when they yelled at me, and I just don't want to come to church anymore. And I'm sitting with you. You're another servant, and I say, listen, I'm not coming here anymore. I don't come here to be yelled at. And I think this was very hurtful. He embarrassed me in front of everyone.
So what you're saying is you felt extremely hurt by what was being said to you at that time.
Yes, it was very embarrassing.
Um,
Like I couldn't imagine, you know, everybody's looking at me and the servant is yelling and yelling and yelling at me, and all this for what? I didn't do anything. Like the guy beside me was the one doing everything.
so I couldn't imagine, you know, how you'd feel being yelled at all the time. And, you know, there was another person as well that you felt that was part of the problem.
Yes,
Am I right
right.
by saying that?
So what did you notice him do? 'Cause he did it really well. Hmm?
The way he's doing it makes the other one calm down and think.
Hmm. It's true. I felt calmer. He did. So he did the solvers pretty well. There's eye contact, and he slowed down. All is good. He did something else. Yes.
You like pointed out something that you said, showing that you were listening.
Pointed something that I said. This is called paraphrasing. He paraphrased what I said. And then he did something really well at the end after he paraphrased. He checked. Yes, he confirmed. This is called active listening. So I don't know what was going on in my servant's head, but all I know is that he was actually listening to me and not somewhere else. And how do I know this? I don't see what's inside his head. What I see from his behavior and the way he spoke with me is that he listened to my words, and the proof is that he repeated them and paraphrased them, not just repeated them verbatim, but he paraphrased, which tells me he heard me and he processed it. Active listening is about suspending your own thoughts and your own rebuttal. You know how often when we so often when we speak with people, we always think in our heads as to what we will say next. So we actually zone out. We don't fully listen to people. It's like reading. You know that you don't read every letter. You just read, right? So in listening to someone, active listening is about suspending what's going on in your head for the sake of fully listening to what's being said and being able to paraphrase and check. Okay, thank you. You've done really well. Have you done communication before?
I have.
Yes, yes, perfect. Very good. Yes, sir. With what? Sorry, Ashra? Grade 11?
Yeah, and what the first thing they have done actually, that I gave them a hug,
Hmm.
and I said sorry, and I'm not sure if that was it had. How can we integrate that? Again, I don't know if that was the best to do. It worked, but I don't know if can we integrate stuff like that with what we have learned or what we avoid.
So are you saying that this situation happened with you where you yelled at a youth, or you sat down with a youth
Yes,
who was yelled at? Oh, yeah.
who was being yelled at
Mm.
by one of the servants who I know.
Yeah. It depends on whether you know this person well enough to hug them or not, and especially if they're same gender or not the same gender. That's very important. So he may feel awkward with the hug, or he may actually feel very safe being hugged this way by his servant. So it really depends if you know him or not. But you said it worked.
It worked.
In retrospect, it worked. So looking back, it worked. But if you're asking at that point, you have to really check. You have to check. Yeah, and an easier way is to just go like this. You know, it's like, wow, you know, that was hard. Like I remember this happened to me when I was young. If you know, here's a disclosure, right? But a hug, maybe it depends. It really depends.
Apologizing would work.
You can say, well, I'm really sorry that you've been through something like this. I'm really sorry, you had to be, in a situation like that. I probably wouldn't like it myself either, or I wouldn't like it either. Tell me more. Learn this phrase. Tell me more. Tell me more. There's more to be said. Say it. Okay? Okay. So phase one was connect, solvers. Phase two was collect, biospheres. Phase three, check in. Now you're beginning, after you collect, we haven't collected, really, this is just a quick demonstration, but when you really collect, spend time to understand what's happening. The point I'm making here is don't jump to solutions. Just collect as much information as you can so you can understand what's happening. And then you enter into the check-in phase where you begin to think, okay, maybe this is related to that. Maybe the fact that you were, upset at yourself led you to do this, and you begin in your mind to ask, to form the questions, ask through active listening. Phase four is creative phase. Here you start to do something creative to intervene. So you can reflect, you can reverse. If really, swearing all the time at people hurt you, have you tried to check if on like in one day you could reverse that and hold yourself from swearing? Just one day or 1 hour? It's just reverse. Just be creative. Review. How did you do when you tried? So assuming that this person has come to talk to you the next Friday in youth group, and then you say, so how did it go? Were you able to do this? What worked? When someone says, and there are ways to, when someone says, you know what, nothing changed. Remember earlier I said to you, there is power in strength-based approach. Remember that when I said pull out the strength, the resilience? Remember that? Yeah. So someone who comes to you and says, you know what? From last time till this time, my anxiety has remained the same. Nothing changed. How can you remain positive? Yeah. So, okay. So it seems like everything is the same. So nothing really got any worse. Is that what you're saying? So it really didn't get worse. What if he says, or she says, it actually, my anxiety got worse. This is very bad, and it couldn't get any worse than this. You know what makes it get worse, so you can get into a better understanding of, so what happened that made it worse. But here's a nice trick. You say, wow, so this week has been terrible for you. Was it really bad um, every single day of the week? And they might come back and say, no, it was just horrible, but not, I mean, Saturday was okay, a little bit, it wasn't. And a better way to say, tell me of the last 7 days, which day you would not want to repeat again. And they would say, for sure, Saturday. Saturday was the worst. As soon as they say Saturday was the worst, that means what? No, no, no. Yeah, almost, but not on Saturday. That means Saturday was the worst. Immediately they thought Saturday is the worst, then maybe Friday was a little bit better, right? So because people, when they come in, they're very problem focused. But you, as a helper, you are not problem focused. This is what makes you a healing agent, right? And what's that? We are trying to shift to their point of view without forcing it, but we're at the same time, it's not about being just positive, positive, positive. No, but it's a positive attitude. It's like, yes, I get it. This is bad. Let's talk about the bad. As much as you want, we'll talk about the bad. But here it is. There is something there that isn't as bad as you actually think. So doing something creative to intervene, reflecting, reversing, reviewing, and this point was under review. Phase, yeah, of course. That would be a follow-up question. Yes. That's the right follow-up question, by the way. When someone says Saturday was the worst, I say, okay, well, Saturday seems to have been really bad. What happened on Saturday? And they say, well, my parents did this and I did that, and it was just terrible. My mood was very bad. I was anxious. I couldn't sleep, until 3, 4 in the morning. Okay, and so how is that different than Friday, let's say? Say, well, no, Friday, or you take the sleep. I say, so you couldn't sleep until 4 in the morning on Saturday. What time did you sleep on Friday? Say, well, no, Friday was okay. I slept at 11:30, 12. Say, oh, okay, so Friday was a little bit better, compared to Saturday. Yeah, it was better. What happened then on Friday that made it better?
So I have questions, especially for someone who has anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know everyone. Like for me, I did do this and I see how
Mm-hmm.
difficult. And I read about it and I see the person he has to help himself.
Mm-hmm.
He has to follow certain
Mm-hmm.
ways
Mm-hmm.
to get him out of this. Because
Right.
he might be weighing.
Yes.
So, like, if I talk about my personal thing and how I pass this situation, they're gonna help her or not?
Not necessarily, no. It's better not to do that. That's why I said earlier, disclosure. In certain cases, yes, but they have to be very soft disclosures, and always you have to have the well-being of the youth in mind. Number one. So if I were to disclose this, how much of it will I disclose, and for what purpose? You cannot just disclose. There has to be a purpose, and how much of it, and like I said, is it going to help my youth or not? And if you're in doubt, don't disclose. So I definitely would hope that people would not disclose more than they would ever disclose unless they're trained to disclose. That's very, very, very critical. Yeah.
I relate because I also have anxiety. I feel like when I went through situations, it's so much easier to go through them when you know someone else has been through it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Where do you draw that line?
So, for example, I sit with one of the youth, and she says, "My aunt, she's the greatest support." And I say, "Wow, that's amazing. That's a great thing to hear. What's going on with your aunt?" She says, "My aunt's been through what I've been through, and just knowing that she has, and seeing her today, and how she's in life and all, gives me a lot of hope." I say, that's wonderful. So, something about your aunt gives you a lot of hope and support. I'm glad you have that support. So I don't have to disclose. I don't have to say, "Oh, well, my aunt, or I've been through this." But at times you can, but you have to really know how to do it. So you could say, you know what? No, someone says, "Abuna, sometimes I doubt myself, and I don't know if I am good enough, or is just the people who like me talk nicely to me, but like deep inside of me, I don't think I'm good enough." And maybe I have the relationship say, "Wow, you know, I've heard this from other people as well, but this is special to you in the sense that you feel it in a certain way. Help me understand how you feel about this." So I've done a quick disclosure, almost just to say, "Wow, you're not all by yourself here." So yeah, there is a way to do it.
So there's other thing. If I don't want to talk about whatever I passed through or whatever how I
Yeah.
like if I tell her because I read about it, right?
Hmm.
That I read there's certain things you have to distress yourself to get over this, or like when you have heartbeat, you have to walk, and that's not something.
No, it could, but again, it depends um, on a few things. One, um, if you're just helping her, obviously as a servant, you could say something like, "What have you tried to manage anxiety when it comes to you?" Because she might have tried this and it didn't work for her. Question rather than give. Question first. So, what have you tried? Well, sometimes when my heart rate goes up, um, I just start panicking. So what I do is I go from my room and I step out to the backyard. Okay, how did this help you? Did it help you? How it helped, and so on. So I explore it, and at one point you may, um, in the challenge phase or the creative phase, which is the phase before that, or this one, say, I've read or I have experienced anxiety at some time in my life as well. And one of the things that really helped me when I was anxious, and I'm not sure if this is going to help you or not, but what has helped me, and I wonder if you'd like to try it, is I have a treadmill and I just hop on the treadmill. And since you told me last week that you have a treadmill and a workout stations at home, have you thought of maybe jumping on the treadmill? As an example. But always position it with, I'm not sure if this is going to help you or not. Do you want to try it? Okay. And anything that has to do with physical activity and so on, I'd be very careful with, because again, I don't know what's going on with her physically either. Yes, Mario. You know something about what they like and they don't like. Yeah. So how will you ask the question? Don't tell me what you tell them, but tell me the question. You can be a little bit more direct. Yeah, and you can be a little bit more direct. Once you've collected all that, you can say, Mariam, for example, I heard you earlier say that you enjoy painting. I'm wondering, when you get anxious, have you tried to just start painting? Has have you tried that? And she might say, no, or yes, and it actually helps me. So you don't know. So you can draw from what she said. Say, I heard you earlier tell me this. Do you think this is something you would like to do or try and do when you get anxious? You think this might help? And she might say, I don't know, or maybe, or you say, you pick something else, and so on. So just through what I just said, is you take from something they have said and you maybe process it a little bit and give it back to them, just like exactly like what I just did with you. Mariam, I heard you say that you like to paint, and I'm wondering, you say when anxiety comes your way, I'm wondering if maybe playing some music or painting, uh, I'm wondering if you might find this helpful. It's tentative. It's a question mark. So she can say, never thought of that. Or, by the way, yes, I play this type of music and it really works. Oh, tell me about the music. When do you play it? What really in the music helps you? Again, if it depends on the conversation and what you're trying to accomplish. Okay? And, right. Yes. So is that the immediate goal or the ultimate goal? It depends. It depends what she's or he's there for. Says, you know what? I cannot come to church anymore. I'm not coming to church anymore. And then in conversation, you end up understanding from them, they're not happy with that decision. They're not happy not coming to church. Okay, sometimes when someone says that, we feel like that's their final decision. Not necessarily. Actually, in fact, it could be something they're struggling with. So if they say, no, I hate this, I really want to come to church and I really want to feel the presence of God. And this is exactly why I'm talking to you, because I want you to tell me, how is it that I can come to church, not be bullied, and at the same time enjoy, my connection with other people, and like or at least come without drama, whichever way they'll say it. It's probably going to different than the way we're speaking. And so that could be, say, okay, well, let's talk about closeness to church and to God. Is that an important thing for you to talk about? He says, yeah, of course, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Say, okay, well, tell me, what in coming to church makes you feel closer to God? And then you say, what else makes you closer to God? What are some things that when you do, you feel closer to God? And then she might open up and say, when I listen to spiritual music, or when my parents put on spiritual music, somehow, even though I don't understand it, something about the music touches my heart. Okay. So you can take it from there. But you can't, when a person is saying, you know what, I am so fed up with so and so, I'm very mad at them, I have so much anxiety coming to church, and you haven't really opened the spiritual part and say, okay, well, part of the things that could help you with your anxiety is listening to Ibrahim Ayat, for example. Maybe not. Maybe they'll listen to someone else and not feel the same way. We can't impose so much specific things until we draw from them. Again, when the youth engages actively in their own solutions, they're more likely to succeed in reaching their outcome than when you impose something on them. Obvious stuff. Phase 4, challenge phase, confrontation. How do I behave or think differently? So now you have someone who's come in, they've decided not to come to church anymore. They hate that. They feel like the church should be a good place. They're very much hurt. They're anxious coming to church, and so on and so forth. Example we've used so far. You want them to begin somehow to believe differently or behave differently. So how do we do that? We question inconsistencies. Just like when Peter was saying, or was it Peter that said, I don't want to talk about this? And so there was an inconsistency. On one hand, he says, I don't want to talk about this. On the other hand, he's here to talk about it. That's called an inconsistency. So we do soft confrontation. So I give you here a house, basically. I'm sorry, I covered this. So inside the house, inside the mind, the problem could be because of lies. I am a worthless person. Now tell me, is that truth or lie? To the person, it seems like the truth. But for someone who knows the fact that we are a human being, we know we have some worth in the image of God as a servant. You know that Christ died for them. You know that. And sometimes, people should say, I hate the way I look. I am an ugly person. And you actually don't think they're ugly. And 3 other people don't think they're ugly. And their parents don't think they're ugly. But there's this one boy, one guy, who told her something about the way she looks. And that kind of stuck in her head. That's a lie. So we have there needs to be renewal to this, to the mind. It could be that the problem of that person is sin. The reason why they are so depressed, the reason why they are so down and sad is because they're struggling with a certain sin. That could be the reason. So we need to live a life of repentance. It could be that there is unforgiveness in their heart. Unforgiveness towards who? Self, others, God. Yeah. Or towards their environment. So we need to release this type of unforgiveness. We need to learn to let go. Some of the grieving and the sadness that I see amongst youth is because they hold a grudge and they cannot let go. And that causes them a lot of distress. And then there are mental agreements. They kind of agreed, similar to what you were about to say earlier, but sometimes you've all heard of OCD, right? Obsessive compulsive disorder. We all have some level of OCD. Let's put it this way. We all have some level of OCD. But then when that level really reaches a little bit of an inconvenience in life, it becomes an OCD, a D, disorder. So we all have obsessive and compulsive thoughts. But when they become disruptive to day-to-day life, they become a disorder in a way. There's a way to diagnose. Not for us. But there are mental agreements. unless I do this, something bad is going to happen. This mental agreement, there's an agreement in the head that I must do this in order for this bad thing not to happen. So there needs to be some renouncement of false vows. And you'll find that the person at times, they would not agree with that, but they're very far, they're not as frequent as you want them to be, far in between. Could be developmental, of course. Yeah.
How about if the council we figure out that it's like a whole situation will wait for the
Mhm.
actually in the very close circle
Yeah.
that they use that actually for them
Yeah, of course. So as a servant, you don't really have full access to the parents, so you will reach out to the priest. In terms of actions, what you asked, your question. So you reach out to the priest, and the priest will go and visit the house, and will might be able to bring up the topic of what's going on with the child, and so on. And then there might be something that will change. Okay. Now, if the environment at home is so uh, obvious that it actually shows in the life of that youth at school, someone in school is going to pick it up too. The final phase is I think this is final phase 6, come along phase. I think there's one more. What changed? So if the youth comes back and says, you know what, I really feel a lot better. I've tried listening to music and it has worked. And I did this, I did that, and I actually feel a lot better. Say, you don't say, oh, this is wonderful, this is amazing, go in peace. No, no, no. You got to ask the question, tell me more. How did it become better? How did it become better? What did you end up doing that made this happen? How did you manage the stuff that was a problem before that you talked to me about, like this, and that? How did you manage that this last week that it made the week better? What am I trying to do here? Hmm? So, by why? What am I trying to do? For what purpose? Check reality, remind themselves. If some people think that change happened as it befell them to be different. No, no, no. They've actually done something. So I want them to anchor the change in their actual behavior that is under their control, because they could repeat that again. You felt, so even in spiritual life, say someone says, Abuna, I felt like I grew. If I just say, oh, that's amazing, wonderful, God bless you, let me pray for you. Okay, good. But if I were to say, what happened? Tell me more. Oh, Abuna, I prayed. I was telling you I wasn't praying, and I'm talking about spiritual matter. I prayed. Oh, wow, you usually had trouble waking up to pray. How did you wake up this time? I don't know, I just felt so much energy. Interesting. So much energy. What brought in the energy? Like, I'm not going to just say, it happened. So at the end, I can say, this is a touch of God's grace. But God's grace works with our efforts. Tell me about your effort. Because I know God gives the grace. What did you do? Well, I woke up. How did you do that? I don't. And then they open up, say, oh well, this happened and this happened. And you'll find something. But it's important that you know what the change is, what it is, and how the change happened. What does the change look like? And finally, closure phase, which is you close at the end, and you say, you know what, let's follow up about this, see how you're doing. I think we've been talking almost every Friday when we would meet after class, and it's been like 4 or 5 Fridays. I'm really happy for the change that's going on in your life, and you're able to tell me how it's happening, what it is that's happening, and how it's happening. You've been doing real good work. I'm proud of you. So there is a lot of encouragement in the termination phase, and say, why don't we check in 2 weeks instead of meeting next week? Why is it important that we come to a point of termination? I think you know it. You mumbled something, so I'm going to assume you say it. That's right. Exactly. You as a counselor, you are like a crutch. That's it. You are a band-aid, you're a help. But people cannot just live depending on you, nor do you ever want them to do that. You want them to stand up on their own. And your role is to help them see how they can do this and then say, okay, you know what? Like try and walk without the crutch for a week or two and let's talk again. And that brings termination is really good. It's a time of celebrating the success that God has brought about in the life of that person, and the person has been able to accept it and live it. Okay, we'll take a break. It's 4:30. We'll take 15 minutes break. So 4:45, we'll come back and we'll do some case studies together. Hear me now. You can probably hear me. Okay, good. If you have access to Moodle, you can have access to the case study. I will read it. Keep the case study in mind as I quote unquote lecture on drug and alcohol use. Okay, here is Matt. Matt is 16 years old. He was brought to you by his mom, who was tired of dealing with his drug abuse problems. Matt's school was also threatening him with expulsion unless he secured immediate treatments. He was caught drinking alcohol in the morning on school property 2 months ago. And more recently, school officials discovered marijuana in his locker. He denied having a problem with drinking or drugs. He said, "It is as if I committed murder or something." But he did report smoking marijuana now and then. As a young boy, Matt was pleasant and never seemed to cause much trouble. In junior high, however, he began to hang out with young people his mom and dad did not like. He started listening to weird and loud music, his mom reported. And he begged and begged to go to a concert of a sort with his friends until the mom just let him go. 4 years ago, his parents separated. His dad had reported that he discovered that Matt and his friends use an old, rusted out van that is up on blocks in a neighbor's backyard as their drug club. His mom said they use this van to contain the smoke within and increase the effect of marijuana. So keep the case in mind as I, begin to kind of lecture on drug and alcohol abuse. The number one drug problem in North America is alcoholism. The number one drug problem, substance problem that is. Age of experimentation with alcohol is getting younger and younger. So we're having younger people drink alcohol, consume alcohol in parties, birthday parties, and get together type of gatherings than ever before. Junior high are making decisions regarding alcohol and drugs, not high schoolers, junior high. Warning signs of teenage alcohol and drug abuse. What are some warning signs you think you might see in someone who is abusing substance? We're talking a teenager. Failing in the grades. So an abrupt change in their school performance. Overaggression, violence. Yep. Isolation, withdrawal, social withdrawal. They're more reserved in their conversation. Yes. Think of a youth in your youth ministry. Yeah? Think of someone in your church. So all these things apply. What else? Yeah. So you stop seeing, so it's part of them disappearing or social withdrawing. Hyperactivity, like they're hyperactive. They oh yes, so they act out. They're acting out behavioral problems. What else? Yes.
change of friends. They're with a different group.
They could be with a different group. Yes, that's a possibility as well. They're more to themselves, has to do with the withdrawal, the social withdrawal part. High risk behavior. They start getting into stealing, extreme mood swings, signs of depression, sexual activity, physical complaints. So they may complain of headaches. They may complain of, like, we're talking repetitive complaints here, changes in relationships and eating habits. What are some observable signs? The way they look, what are you going to see? So there is a discoloration that you might be able to detect. Smell. You come and hug them in the youth ministry, and you will smell it. You'll smell the marijuana, and you will smell the alcohol. Slurred speech, spread out in their heads, dilated pupils. If you ever come close enough to see, especially if they have clear eyes, like you will see dilated pupils. Yeah, their eye, the round thing in the middle. No, it becomes more open, wider. Also, presence of drug paraphernalia, like pipes, pill boxes, straws, spoons. You'd start finding things in their bag. The most common now that you will find is what? Vape, jewels. Yes, exactly. Also, clothing depicting drug themes. You may also find that they change their style. There is a distinction between two categories of drugs, something we call psychoactive substance abuse. The other one is called psychoactive substance dependence. They're both disorders. According to the DSM, the DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the one that psychiatrists and psychologists use in order to make a diagnosis. So there are two types of disorders. One called psychoactive substance abuse. The other one is called psychoactive substance dependence. So some assessment tools. One of the assessment tools says you can tell how bad the drug addiction or the drug abuse is through stages. Stage 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 5 stages. Stage 0 is curiosity. Just someone who has some level of interest in alcohol, and alcohol is readily available, but they haven't tried yet. So parents have them at home, and your teenager is just very interested in alcohol, keeps asking questions about alcohol. They haven't tried it yet. That's stage 0. Stage 1, learning the mood swings. So adolescents learn how easy it is to feel good with few, if any, consequences, except perhaps mild guilt. So they begin to try and they begin to have mood swings. Oh, I shouldn't do that. I feel so guilty about what I did. I tried it once and I just feel horrible. Stage 2, seeking mood swings. So the first one is learning the mood swings, learning it. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is seeking it. Rather than using alcohol as a something to accompany social events, the youngster decides to get drunk as a goal and arranges to have his or her own supply of marijuana or. That's stage 2. Stage 3, preoccupation with the mood swings. Now, all they're thinking about is, when can I do this again and how? And they're just preoccupied. It just always on their mind. Being drunk becomes a main goal. And there's planning on how to do this. Stage 4, drinking to feel okay. So they cannot feel okay unless they drink. This is the addiction phase. The euphoria becomes harder to achieve. Larger amounts of the substance are now needed. There's tolerance here. So Stage 1, stage 0, just curiosity. Stage 1, they're learning the mood swings. Stage 2, they are seeking it. Stage 3, they're preoccupied with it. Stage 4, they cannot be okay unless they do it. And so that's we say anywhere, honest to God, not with how available alcohol is, and people think the problem is marijuana, for example. There's a problem, of course, in marijuana, but the alcohol in the best homes, there's someone who will have a bottle somewhere, or a friend who has a bottle somewhere. This is how easy the accessibility to alcohol is. And it is the number one problem, substance problem in our country and in the world, in North America specifically. Yeah, yeah, exactly. In movies, the whole thing is always the bars everywhere. Yeah. And accessibility is unbelievable. Accessibility, I get some people who are like 12, 13, who are struggling because they've tried it and they want to continue trying it. Where are they getting it from? And I ask, like, parents drink? No, we don't have it at home. Where are you getting it from? My friend gets it for us. And their friend is like 14, but looks like 18. And there is always one friend who looks older that they use to go get these, the drinks from LCBO or whatever they get it from. 4 possible and common types of adolescent. So, hold on. Matt, which stage is he at? Do you have the case? Or do you want me to read it again? So you have the case? You don't have the case. Yeah, but you're So in terms of the mood swings, if you say something, tell me why. If you say stage 4, which is drinking to feel okay, tell me why. If you think it's stage 3, tell me why. That's right. Because now, as you were saying, it's not giving them what they want. So there is a certain behavior in the case, which is they close the van door to do what? To increase the impact or the effect of marijuana. So now they entered into tolerance, and so they want more of the effects. They are at stage 4. This is a guy who's 16 years of age, 16, and he's at stage 4. So 4 possible and common types of adolescent drug users. We have one type called the experimenter. They try up to 4 to 5 times in order to gain acceptance from their peers and be in the know. Their use is short-term and low in frequency. Then you have the recreationist. They use drugs to share pleasurable experiences with friends. Then you have the seeker, who seeks an altered state and use drugs and alcohol regularly to achieve a sedative or intoxicant effect. And you have what we call the drug heads. This is a sick adolescent who has moved to regular use of hard drugs like cocaine or heroin. He or she is addicted. Yeah. The recreationist. So what drug category is being used? There are, I'll mention here about 4 different categories. The first one is called depressants. Those slow down the activity of your nervous system. They're depressants. Alcohol is one of them. So why do some people drink alcohol when they're in social gathering? Yeah, they're anxious. They feel a little bit awkward. There's anxiety in connecting with people. But when they drink alcohol, what happens to their nervous system? Yeah, it depresses. They calm down so they feel less anxious, right? No problem. Inhalants. I'm not giving you ideas here, but glue, nail polish remover, cleaning, cleaning, cleaning fluids, gasoline. They are depressants. They, yeah, they smell it. Don't you hear in about the kulla? Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah. These are depressants. Obviously, their impact is not like alcohol, but there are people who get addicted to them. Minor tranquilizers like Ativan or Valium, sedatives, all depressants except one called PCP can be obtained legally. All the other ones can be obtained legally, so they're accessible. The second category is called stimulants. Stimulants, they stimulate activity in the brain, they suppress appetite, they make your emotional depression better. What's a stimulant that we all drink? We just drank it. Caffeine, right? Nicotine in the cigarettes. They're stimulants. Amphetamines, methadone, cocaine. Cocaine, by the way, does not create a physical dependence. It creates a mental dependence. So heroin, for example, creates a physical dependence. But cocaine does something to your brain. The same activity of brain activity seen under an MRI for a cocaine addict is the same for a porn addict. Same type of brain activity. Yeah, but the activity itself of how the brain is firing and where it shuts down, where it opens up, and so on. Stimulants. The third type is hallucinogens. Hallucinogens, they're mind distorters. They create altered perceptions. Guess what's included under this category? It can create distortion. Yes? LSD, yeah. Marijuana. And all of them are illegal except marijuana. Where? In Canada and other countries as well, but mainly that's where we live. The fourth category are narcotics. Analgesic effects, they relieve physical pain, highly addictive. These are your morphines, your codeines, your heroin, and so on. So why is there a struggle in our society with alcohol and with drugs in general? So alcohol is a drug. Why is there a struggle? Why are people struggling? Why are teenagers as young as grade 5, 6, and 7 vaping and smoking and drinking? So a big part of this is it's normalized through the media. But they don't normalize kids drinking. They don't normalize kids smoking. How come kids do it? There's other things as well. Exactly. They don't really think, oh, this is going to hurt me. Hey, it's giving me what I need now. It's helping me. It's giving me a new sensation. I like it. They're into what's going on right now. What else? Peer pressure. So media, lack of understanding, peer pressure. Why do you think people do that? Yeah, so fitting in, wanting to kind of be in the, uh, I know what's going on type of circle. Thank you. Family factors. Most of, I say most of adult users or abusers, it's because they're trying, it's a maladaptive behavior, as I said earlier. It's a behavior to help them overcome a problem in their life. So they're very very down. They are very anxious. They are work isn't going well. Teenager may be going through a rough patch with their parents that's been prolonged for a year or two, and they're not able to come out of it. So they need some sort of relief, some sort of a fun factor in their life. So they go to substance. So substance isn't usually the cause. It is the end result or the consequence or what they go to in order to overcome something else. So in order to help someone through a drug problem, you got to go to the root cause. Okay. I don't know if you knew this or what or not. Genetics, inheritance. If you have someone in the family who has what we call substance use disorder, the teenager will be more likely to have SUD than someone else. So they think it might be. So there's a correlation, not a causation, but a correlation. Personality factors. So someone with low self-esteem, low expectations for personal achievements, lack control of impulses, highly adventurous, independent, seeking inclusion in a social group, basically the adolescents. That's why adolescents are at a higher risk of SUDs. So how to help? Once you start intervening, keep few things in mind. Parents must be involved. So if you're dealing with a teenager, adolescent, this is not something you will handle on your own. Parents must get involved. Information about drugs to be provided truthfully. Health promoting alternatives for use of free time. A lot of teenagers, they drink and they smoke and they do all that stuff in their free time. Students are given opportunities to explore capabilities and ways to contribute in a meaningful way. There needs to be a purpose, so you can help repurpose a teenager. So you need to consider somehow connecting with the priest responsible for the ministry. You need to help get the parents on board through the help of the priest in the ministry. You need to somehow fill the gap of free time. You need to repurpose, have a purpose for the teen. And in cases, as some of the cases I'm dealing with, they gotta get into an inpatient service, like they have to be hospitalized. Some of these teenagers actually, along with the alcohol and the drugs and all that, they're attempting suicide. So they do need intensive care, like intensive care, not ICU, like intensive care, not just, oh, he's going to be better next week. So plug into support of the church, consider inpatient treatment, consider a program like AA, Alcohol Anonymous, the 12-step program. And as a youth servant, you may help the teenager, maybe as I showed you in the house pictogram that I had, to explore cognitive distortions. Again, they're struggling with something in their heads. And that's why sometimes, because it's so busy out here, they go to something that will calm their brains down. So what's going up here? Usually, these automatic thoughts are negative, they're lies, but they are subtle. The adolescent is sometimes unaware of them. They are the negative self-talks. And they need to be mirrored back to the adolescents so that they can move towards reality and challenge these thoughts. It could be old beliefs that they have, and therefore they need to be replaced with new and better, more functional thoughts and beliefs. The last section here is the 3 common distortions that come to their minds. So one is called selective abstraction. Selective abstraction. It's a tunnel vision. So the only way I can have fun is to get high. The only way I can have is to get high. It's called the tunnel vision or selective abstraction. Everything else is out except this. This is my only way out of my problems. Another one is called overgeneralization. I stopped drinking for 2 days once, so I know I can stop anytime. Because I did it once for 2 days, now I can do it all the time. Or I didn't have a single friend before I began to drink. Now, come look at the people that are around me. Obviously, the alcohol isn't the reason why you have more friends. Superstitious thinking, excuses to avoid anxiety. I do drugs before exams because when I take this stuff, I get better marks. Many years ago, I had a teenager who told me, Father, I could not write my exams without blazing. I had to blaze. I had to go out, take the smoke, one marijuana, then I can focus. What's happening with this guy? What's marijuana under? What marijuana can do what? What does marijuana do? It calms you, but at the same time, it can do what? It can produce some distortions in the heads, right? So he reached a point where he was so dependent on the impact of marijuana, otherwise he'd be too anxious to write the exam. So it did a calming effect on him for him to write the exam. You can also help the person by teaching stress management skills. Because stress, they're dealing with stress through a maladaptive behavior called drinking or using the drug. So if they can deal with the stress in a healthier way, they also may stop the drug. Student spirituality. When people have a purpose, have a spiritual purpose, when you are able to help them grow spiritually as they're struggling through these things, they actually can overcome the habits just because they have a spiritual purpose, they have a spiritual goal. Do things like going to the gym or physical exercises or relaxation techniques. Definitely referral to a doctor or a detox center. Okay. Tell me about Matt. What can you do with this guy? Let's throw some ideas here. Yes.
Asking like I don't do drugs, but there are kinds of drugs. And you always talk about marijuana. What's marijuana really a drug, or is it just God given gift to humanity that will help us to cure some of the problems? Because it's a natural. But the minute you process this drug, then it becomes stronger. But some they don't. So my point here is marijuana really a drug that could kill us, or is it something that will heal us?
Oh, very good question.
It's like cocaine. Cocaine, like you said, there's something in it that will destroy your mind. But we always talk about marijuana, but back in the days where they control these drugs, this, as you said, marijuana, where they make it in their process of making money and tricking it to the other people, saying because some of these maybe they take drugs and they become stronger. I mean, this marijuana becomes stronger. It's natural, even in food, even in India. So me going through all the studies about this marijuana, I don't really call it like a drug unless you abuse it. So, but if you take it like minimally, it will help. So how do we put this marijuana into a point where we say blame it all the time with the marijuana?
So Father, tell me first, what are your premises? What are you basing your, I will call it argument, which is your argument, if I hear it correctly, you're saying marijuana is not necessarily a bad drug. It is something that can be either properly used or abused. What are you basing this on?
What I'm basing is like it's a natural given by God.
So one, it's a natural substance. Okay, so you're appealing to the fact that it's natural. What else?
And then it could cure us.
It could cure us.
It could cure us, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So what
Okay.
I'm asking you, does it really
Yeah.
this marijuana is not supposed to be taken, or is
Hmm.
it something
Right.
you should advise people should take it?
Right.
I don't know where to put it.
Okay. Your thoughts before I wrap this. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Father. Thank you. No, this is a very very important issue to discuss. Your thoughts. If it is that what you would like to ask?
Exactly. So then everybody blaming about this marijuana. I mean, now it becomes bad.
Okay. So what do you think? Yes. You, no, 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 no. You can you can get the oil and so on. What else? What else, Father? What else? Tell me more. Tell me all your sources. Yes. That's a valid point to consider. Like there are other things that are natural, but they are poisonous to us. Didn't you graduate from pharmacy? Yeah. What is, I don't know if they still tell you this at U of T. You went to U of T, right? So that's why I'm relating to you. What is there is one particular very natural plant downtown in Toronto that if you were to eat it, you will paralyze and die. Have you heard of belladonna? Yes. This is naturally occurring, and plenty of these exist in Toronto. Like if you buy any mistake, that's why since I've learned this, never will I look at something red and pick it and eat it because it's poison. So there are natural things that will kill you. So that's one. What's one thing? That's why I said, what are the premises? Yep. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hmm. Yeah. 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 So there is a question on the usage that's very important. So medicinal marijuana, for example, where people who are suffering from cancer and really, really hurting, really like suffering painfully, the medical move or medical movement currently in pain management is to take you off the bad painkillers into what they call the better painkillers. So what are the bad painkillers? Huh? Morphine. All the opioids, they're pretty bad, but they are things you can get a prescription for, and people take them. It's not sinful, quote unquote, from original. And actually, they are quite hurtful because eventually you depend on them, you tolerate them, you need more of them, and your system is not going to take more. So they switch some people from that to medicinal marijuana, and they're able to actually extract from the oil the part of the oil that can give you the pain management and not the hallucinations and the euphoria and all that stuff. So the fact that something exists naturally doesn't make it all of a sudden something good, because many things exist naturally, such as the example of poison, belladonna is one of them, and so on, that are not necessarily, they're actually quite harmful for you. But how you use them, a lot of the medication that uses some of these, they work with them and they produce something that is useful. The second point I would say is the usage. If someone gets marijuana because it helps them relax, and so, but here I'm depending on a substance to feel relaxed. But if someone uses them under the guidance and the care of a physician in order to manage pain, that's different. Even the worst of them, like I said, like morphine, fentanyl patch, like the number of deaths per year just for fentanyl patch is crazy. Overdose on the patch. And these are prescription drugs, right? So the usage is important. How they're being used and under the care of a caring physician or not, and so on and so forth. But if you get it off the street or buy it here and there and you're using it so that you can feel a certain feeling, this is called an emotional maladaptive behavior. Father, let's remove marijuana. Let's take something as simple as wine. Wine, the substance itself is not sinful. Drinking it, yes, could become very sinful. That's why we avoid substance whenever we can. Someone who may, I'm just saying, this is just a general thought. Maybe along with their friends, they're adults, and they went out for dinner and they took a cup of red wine, versus someone who is in midlife crisis, who comes every day after work and would not be able to relax unless they drink the same cup of wine. Now we have a problem, a bigger problem, right? So things have to be taken in context as well. So within the medicinal realm, it may be acceptable, of course, but within the recreational realm, it may not be spiritually acceptable, because I am created as a free being in the image of God, not to need any of these substances in order to feel good. This has happened because of sin that entered into the world and the disruption that has happened, the corruption that has happened into the human race. Yes. Yeah. Alcohol, yeah. Yeah, not everything I can take in small amount and it's okay. So, for example, you would not take something like high in alcohol, 60% alcohol, say, I took only one shot. No, the Bible is very clear on do not touch anything that could produce drunkenness. So in the Bible, so this in the now, but the Old Testament is very clear on not touching المسكرات, الحاجات this is a category. It's not to come close. Now you have wine, you have, like I said, the context has to be in mind, but there has to be a direction where a person is free from substance. I say this even about coffee. Abuna, I cannot abstain during the Lent because I have to drink my morning coffee. This to me is as sinful as depending on drinking wine to feel better in the evening, right? And these are not my thoughts. These are based on the principle in the Bible. We are created a free beings, we must live free. And we should not. The Bible says 3 laws, St. Paul puts them. One of them is, all things are lawful unto me, but I should not be brought into subjection. I should not be enslaved to anything. Anyways, good discussion. Yes? Yes. Good point. Next week. Yes, you're right. You're right. Absolutely, you're correct. We used to, and we should bring this back. Absolutely, you're right. Yeah, we used to. We used to bring people who will talk specifically about drugs, alcohol. We used to bring a police officer to speak about pornography because of what they deal with in the, in arrests and stuff. Great idea. Thank you. Yes, Perry. What's that? Sorry. No, not next week, but I will be. Mhm. I understand you, but I think there is a lot of misconception in just what you just said. Um, Again, the alcohol differs. If you're going in for heavy alcohol, there is no way I'd say this is okay. The Bible is very clear on alcohol of that type. But to talk about wine or beer, there has to be things in context. And when I speak with teenagers, their context is to start very dangerous. So it's like speaking to people in uni and say, Abuna, is it okay if I go to let's say like a club, or if I go out with my friends and we can just have a drink? Say, can you really control that? Oh, yes, I can. They can't. They can. The context is very important, right? Like you're saying, it's very important. But there's also misconceptions. And there must be a direction where I'm heading towards being free from the substance. Because I'm created a free being. And these substances do impact this. This is the rationale. What does alcohol impact? Is your ability to discern and decide, and that's why I say you cannot drink and drive, because you're not able to, your reflexes are impacted, and so on and so forth. But people, even Christians, play with this one, not fully understanding like the concept of liberty in Christianity. I was speaking about this not too long ago. What does it mean to be free as a Christian? This is a topic on its own. But your point is well taken. But with some of the misunderstandings as to, but Jesus changed or St. Paul said to Timothy, you can drink a little bit of alcohol, therefore I can have tequila. He didn't say tequila. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And so there needs to be an understanding and a proper handling, of course. But don't forget that when you say I, and I say my family, and you say, we're talking about culture here, another culture. We're talking also about the influence of other cultures into our culture, and so on. But there is a clear indication in the Bible that I should never be slaved or enslaved to any substance, including simple substances. Like I said, like caffeine. Caffeine was mentioned as part of the substance that I talked about today. And I tell you, many adults have such a hard time not drinking their coffee in the morning. Anyways, let me move on to the next piece. We're good? Yeah. Anxiety. Since we caused a lot of that. So as you can see, you cannot see. This is all taken from Moodle, by the way, so it's all in there. Has anyone been able to see it? Yeah, good, excellent. Through your username, you should be able to log in. So you have to have a password. Do you have a password for users? Yeah, you go in there and then you click on all courses, or my courses or all courses, and then you click on the Adolescent 2024. There's YMCP 24, you click on that, and then you go to this course. What's that? Yeah, your site is ymcpapp.ca. صح كده يا ريمون؟
We have a guide that was open in the group with a small clip how to access.
Okay, so let me go through emotional issues, anxiety. Very common, very, very common. So definitions of anxiety, people say worry, fear, stress, concerns. There is a manual that I mentioned to you called the DSM. This is for proper diagnosis through psychiatrists and psychologists and the like. Causes of anxiety. These are things that have been found to precipitate anxiety. First of all, I just defined it: worry, excessive worry, fear. I just named a few: concern, stress, and so on. Negative self-talk, insecurities can cause it. Inconsistencies in one's life. So, like, I cannot be sure of anything. What is anxiety about? Remember, I talked about the gadgets of obstacles, goals. What's the gadget? Uncertainty. Exactly. It's something about the future that I'm not certain of. But if your life, unfortunately, some of the youth, their parents are not okay, their school is not okay, their principal doesn't like them, their teacher is this, they're like everything, their church is not accepting them, the people in church is bothering them. So their lives are full of uncertainties. So this is called inconsistencies in life. Every time they come to their parents for love, they can get some love and then they get what? Punishments. So they've learned from a very young age that to attach, I have to be careful. So I'm going to come close, but I've been burned before, so I'm going to come close, but not too close. This is called, because there's inconsistency in the way the parents deal with them. Legalistic criticism, permissiveness. So again, if everything is permissive, a child doesn't know, no guidance. So you think that, oh, if I only had parents who allowed me to do everything. No, no, no. Actually, those who come from families that allow them to do everything, they suffer from anxiety, or a big number of them suffer from anxiety because of this permissiveness. There's no blueprint for life. Also, perfectionism. Everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be just right. That again causes anxiety. Neurology. So sometimes in the way the brain is wired, or anything that physical disorders that can lead also to anxiety, and the sense of no meaning, meaningless. So how to help? Counseling a person who is anxious has its own challenges, and it's not easy. I don't know if you sat down with someone who is overly anxious, but I do that a lot. You sense the anxiety go into you. It's like a cold. When someone sneezes in your face, you feel like you've got something in. Anxiety is like that. You feel it in your body. The key is to learn how to balance the stress to ensure overall being. Stress is not bad, by the way. If you're not stressed about school, you will not study. If you're not stressed about doing well at work, you will not put the effort. So some level of healthy stress is needed. But anxiety is when that stress goes overboard and it begins to hurt you.
There's like two different types specific stress. Stress.
Yes.
Stress.
Yes.
Use stress is the good, healthy stress that you feel before you jump up in the airplane. For example, to go skydiving. You're scared in the beginning, but afterwards you feel a sense of like, wow.
Yeah.
And some situations.
If you come down alive, of course. Yeah.
But this stress is where you start getting.
Yeah. So steps to help. I'll present you a few numbered steps. Proper assessment, which isn't your area of expertise, but anxiety needs to be properly assessed. That could happen at the level of a therapist, like a psychotherapist. It could happen at the level of the physician, the healthcare provider, like a family doctor. It could happen at the psychiatrist level. There are scales that are used, and some of these scales are online. Like you can even self-check if you wanted to. But they're self-rating anxiety scales that can quantify the anxiety, whether they occur or not, and whether what the intensity of the symptom is, and whether you avoid those situations or not. So especially with social anxiety. So there are stuff there that can be used. Physician examination is very important. Now, as a servant, this is important for you to know. If you have a youth who's anxious, you got to ask the question, so have you seen your doctor about this? Say, but I'm a servant. Yeah, of course, you're a servant. Who cares? So you want to make sure that, have you talked to your parents about this? Have you had a chance to speak to Abuna about this? So you cannot just jump into, oh, I'm going to be the cure for that person. Help adolescents face their anxiety. So what's the worst case scenario? So a lot of the youth, for example, who suffer from anxiety, they hold back from doing certain activities. So someone who has social anxiety, they actually skip dance class, or they skip gymnastics, or they cannot do presentations in class because they have something real that they feel called social anxiety. So sometimes just talking to them, say, okay, well, has there been a time where you were able to go to dance class? Oh, yes, it has happened before. How did you manage? This is what I'm talking about when I say help them face this thing that they think it's unsurmountable. Avoid pat answers. So you cannot say, oh, your problem is normal. All you have to do is pray and trust God more, and everything will be all right. So you say that to a youth, they think, but I prayed before, and it didn't, nothing left me. Well, yeah, because this is not a purely spiritual matter. This is actually primarily a psychological matter. It has to do with your emotions. So it's important that we don't give these pat answers. What do you think about the following statement? Anxiety is a sign of spiritual and psychological weakness. I think you're anxious because you're far from God. I'm paraphrasing this, rephrasing it. Yeah, what do you think of that statement? It's a terrible statement. Mm-hmm. Yes, such as in when? What's that? When you have anxiety is a sign of spiritual and psychological weakness.
Wait, sorry. I think for us, that's not a proper sentence to say at all.
For me, okay. Yeah, yeah. Put it on me. Yes.
I'll go off of that and say that.
Off that. That's a terrible. Oh, no, you're the one who said that's a terrible.
From the spiritual, father perspective,
Mm-hmm.
if you know that within the context is them being far from God and
Right.
causing them anxiety,
Yes.
then that particular situation
Yes.
that would apply. But in
What
general,
if you are a servant who's very close to that person, you care a lot about them, and you actually think that their anxiety is caused by them being far from God? Okay, how would you say that? Sure. No, they don't have a connection with God anymore, and they don't come to church much, and you just happen to outreach them, and you connected well with them, so they trust you, but they don't want to come to church, don't really like God. Everything is I can create one for you, but sometimes you don't find a specific reason. They just never tried, never connected, never tried to do any connection.
Well, I would say, like, if they actually connected me and they
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Mariam, I'll come back to your father. Mariam, you wanted to say something?
yeah, I want to say like how can we under like I heard you say some that in case that
Yeah. They don't like God. They don't like the idea of God. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, Father, and then Joe.
How can I tackle my daughter?
Hmm.
My daughter, she's the eldest one. She not had it full time,
Mhm.
but she works a nurse.
Mhm.
But she's like, oh, I'm so excited. I feel so, but I don't know how to ask her. I said, well, what kind of anxiety? It's all in your brain.
Mm.
I said to her,
Mhm.
it's all in your brain. Don't think like that.
Mhm.
Maybe you're pressure your work.
Mhm.
How can I tackle this?
So remember, connect, collect, and what was after collect? Check in, right? And then after check in, huh? Challenge, challenge, check in, and then in checking in, we are being, testing our hypothesis, checking in, then challenge, right? So instead of saying, as a father, I want to help my daughter right away because it hurts me so much to see my daughter suffering. That's why I'm not the best therapist for my daughter. I may do a few things such as tell me about your anxiety. When do you feel it the most? Are you feeling it right now? What is the worst on a scale of 0 to 10? 10 meaning the worst anxiety, 0, no anxiety. What's your anxiety like as we're talking now? So I'm collecting because I can say it's all in your head and it's not going to help. Because the first thing that if I put myself in her shoes, I would say, my dad has no idea what I'm going through. It's not like dad doesn't want to have an idea. His dad is also anxious about her anxiety, right? So it's important that I collect information. But back again here, we're still in step 4. Things not to do is not to over spiritualize the matter. Yes, as we come closer to God, we will be less anxious. But there are certain anxieties that hit the psyche of the person so deep that even people who pray a lot, unfortunately, they can get anxiety about prayer. There is OCD of prayer. So someone says, I gotta pray the Psalms this way, or else God will not hear them. So the psychological issue is now impacting their spiritual issues or the spiritual life. In sync. In sync.
Maybe she's pressure at work.
Recognize the strengths of anxiety. Is there such a thing as good anxiety? We spoke about that. Recognize anxiety as an agent of growth. In what situation would that be true? When anxiety is an agent of growth, it's when it helps you open up new doors. You discover things about yourself that you did not know. When can anxiety be a means of personal growth? So, for example, a youth who's very worried that his parents are fighting, and he doesn't know what this gonna end up like what's gonna end up happening. That person has a good reason, like there has a reason to be anxious, but also they're not able to change what's happening with mom and dad. That's why their anxiety is coming out at them. Neutralize some of the anxiety. So slowing down, soft voice, generalize experience carefully. So someone says, I am very anxious at school, university. Now, who's in university who's not anxious? Give me their names. Like, haven't you noticed that university, well, you probably did not notice, but I have, because my university years were like, and just before the exams a little bit. Now university, I sit with a lot of uni students, they're anxious most of the time. Something has happened in the system. There's a system issue, actually, in my opinion, there's a system issue. Right? So say, oh my goodness, I know you're anxious, and it's so terrible how a lot of uni students are also anxious. So it's like you're not the odd one here.
You mentioned before, we should be careful with But in this case of like anxiety, I know that working out would help anxiety.
If physically they're fit to do it, that's what I meant. So you gotta say, are you okay working out? Is there any issue that will hold you back from working out? That your doctors say you cannot work out? Stuff like that. So I'd be just careful first. Instill hope. You know, from what you told me and how you've managed anxiety before and how you've tried to calm yourself a week or so before exams and the way you're going to the gym and the way you've tried this, that tells me there is hope you will overcome this. It doesn't feel like you can right now, but what you told me gives us hope that you can. Hope is an element that helps people reach their desired outcome. If you have someone who is not hopeful, they'll not work towards their goal. Identify negative thinking, see his CBT base. So goal, exercise mental willpower. What are the thoughts that are causing anxiety? Remember specifically what may cause anxiety in an adolescent. We talked about this earlier. What can cause anxiety in an adolescent? Well, inconsistencies, troubles, wars, you name it. Practice positive self-talk. So here are some very quick tips. First, stop self-statements. I'll never fall asleep. So a lot of these things, they go on in the mind of the others. I'll never fall asleep. I know something terrible is going to happen. No one would ever want to go out with me. These are self-talks that are so negative and so quick, automatic, that you can tell them, I want you to imagine a stop sign every time these thoughts come. And imagine the redness and the word stop and say stop. Some people, I even tell them, why don't you put a prayer rope around your hand or an elastic band? Whenever the thought comes, just touch the prayer rope or snap the elastic band to say, oh, I'm not thinking this way. So sometimes you just have to stop. Second, practice positive statement. I am upset now. It's true, but things will get better soon. You notice in the negative self-talk, it's the other way around. Yes, I may have done good in my exam, but this time I think I'm going to fail. You see how the switch happens? So teach them to do the switch. Put the negative, and after the but, put the positive. Worry does not help. Action does. I am uncertain, and that's all right. I don't have to be certain all the time. This is key with anxiety. Like the anxiety, it's a game. It's a catch-22 game. It's a game that goes like this. The rules are put as such, in such a way that you will lose every time. What's the game? The game is you have to be certain about X, or else you're not going to be okay. That's rule number one. You have to be certain. Second, oh, guess what? You cannot be certain. You're losing. So you have to be certain. You're not, and you're not certain. You cannot be certain at all. So you become anxious. So one of the ways is to overcome. Is say it's okay not to know. Even spiritually, it's okay not to know. I'm in God's hands. Who knows? I don't have to know. You know the saying that I don't know what the future holds, but I know who holds the future. Yeah? It's the idea that I don't know, and it's okay if I don't know. Actually, there's a next level. I don't know, and I'm glad I don't know. Because this gives me an opportunity to put my life in God's hands and exercise faithfulness and trust. Okay? And people get there, by the way. They don't get it once I say it's once. And I follow up regularly, and these people change their minds. They begin to change the way they think. Calm down, relax. It's all right. Things are going to be fine. Teach deep muscle relaxation. This is, again, it's done outside of your scope, but it can be done on the therapist or at the therapist scope. Is teaching them to be to relax their muscles, to close their eyes. If I ask you this now, can you close your eyes? Close your eyes. I'm going to show you something. Very quickly, whoever feels tension in their foreheads, put your hand up. Whoever feels tension around their neck and their shoulders, put your hand up. Whoever feels tension around their stomach and their waist, put your hand up. Whoever feels tension in their legs and feet, put your hand up. So you can open your eyes. This is a very quick, you guys, everyone had their hands pretty much up. Okay? What does this tell you? We are in our physical body always tense. And so it's good to teach how to go to these areas and relax them. I didn't do that now because of time, but you can actually go to your forehead and almost order your forehead to relax. And you will relax, like the muscle will actually relax. But because you're not conscious of it, it's always like this. So help the adolescent become more self-aware. Like what's recruiting them to anxiety? What recruits you to anxiety? Are you always anxious? Here's one of the things that you could help your adolescent to understand. They're not anxious. They get visited by anxiety. I like this terminology because it makes you or the adolescent separate from the problem. Anxiety comes and visits you. Therefore, there are times where anxiety is not there as much. How do you know that anxiety is coming close to you? What recruits you to anxiety? What actually helps you? What helped you last time when you said, you kind of overcome anxiety? What helped you push that anxious visitor? Call them visitor or intruder. How did you push them out? Say, well, this is what I said to myself. This is what I did. I physically got up and did that. So there are ways where you and anxiety are not one and the same. This is important when you deal with adolescents' problem. Separate them from the problem. They are not the problem. People tend to think of people as the problem. No, there's people and there's problem. Problem comes, problem can go. Explore spiritual issues. So incorporate biblical approach. There are 5 actions that are put out there in a book called Christian Counseling by Gary Collins. He says, rejoice, forbear, pray, think, and act. I like this model. Rejoice. What are God's promise to me? What is positive in my life? What's going well? Let me rejoice about that despite the fact that I'm worried about other things. Forbear. Okay, there are things that I'm not aware of and they are really causing anxiety. It's okay. Anxiety. I don't have to be so scared of anxiety. Anxiety can be recognized as, yes, I know there is anxiety. And I can suffer a little bit. I can forbear that. I can endure that. The idea of, no, I cannot. I cannot. No, you can. It's okay. It's okay to forbear. And then pray about it. Make your requests known to God. Think. Let your mind dwell on positives and let your mind work for you, not against you. And then act. Acting according to God's way. Behaving in a way that would be more anxiety-free or better better mood than the mood of anxiety. When to refer, it's very important. You are not a therapist. You are not a psychiatrist. And if you are, not in the context of the church. In the church, you are a servant. So it's important that you know that at one point you have to refer. You have to involve other people. You cannot handle this all by yourself. So there are times where things are getting worse or things are not getting any better. And there are times for you to say, time to really see a doctor. And what has helped a lot, and I tell you on the honest truth, what has helped a lot in our community is more fathers, more priests, at one point saying to people, listen, you have to see a psychiatrist. You have to see a psychologist. You have to see a counselor. As much as I'd like to help you, this is not only a spiritual matter. It's like someone who comes to you says, Father, I've been having this fever, and I've been having this sore throat, and I don't know, my stomach really hurts. It's been like 2 weeks, and I've been having a bit of diarrhea and constipation. And Abuna would say, oh, well, I hope you feel better. And let's see how this is connected to your prayer time. Or how is this, are you reading the Bible every day? Are you coming to the church regularly? Are you serving people wholeheartedly? It's like, of course, these are important things. But Abuna should say to the person, what? Go see your physician. And an Abuna would do that. But when it comes to psychological issues, emotional matters, we have culturally connected them to spirituality almost right away. Not the case. You get someone, for example, who is obsessive, has obsessive compulsive disorder-like behavior, okay? They need proper treatments. They're not going to be helped only by you saying a few things. They may not be helped at all. So I'm not only speaking, yes, I do pray on people, I do anoint them with oil, and I have full faith that God will heal them. I do. But at the same time, God has given us, amongst members of the body of Christ, among members of the society, physicians and psychiatrists and so on, where they can actually help in their areas of expertise. Yes, there are always people who can hurt you here or there, but I'm just saying people who can properly diagnose and properly work. So there will be a need for referral at one point. You mentioned earlier, like a therapist for, let's say, a muscle spasm. So what if you were to go to your servant and say, my dear servant in Sunday school, I have a muscle spasm here. What's the servant going to do spiritually? Huh? No. Yeah. Is this blasphemy? It's muscle spasm. Okay, the first thing it will do, you probably need to see a doctor to see what's going on here. Or you know what, I fell and my bone hurts. Your bone hurts. 10 matanyas. I'm speaking in a bit of a sarcastic tone because, and thank God no one is doing this. Like, thank God. So no, you gotta make sure you see someone. Make sure you get, and the spiritual part, yes, I'll come and I'll pray for you and I will anoint you and I believe God will heal you. I believe that. Right? So
When speaking of the cultural aspect, a doctor of mine actually, he saw a patient and one of the patients was suffering from anxiety, and she asked him to see her father confession.
yeah.
So she
And
went in.
yeah, and it's possible that, especially with anxiety and stress and all that, that a spiritual growth will help. It's possible, of course, no question. But it's not just a spiritual, it's not a spiritual matter, it is a psycho-spiritual matter. And it could also be physical matter as well. So let me just close by Andrew. Andrew, a 14-year-old boy, you don't have, I give you another case. The case that you have online is for you to put a forum discussion on it if you are online. You have people online, so the people online don't have to worry because they're not there. You could put your thoughts on the forum if you like. It's up to you. I think we've covered a few cases today. This is one of them. Andrew is a 14-year-old boy. He started talking to you in one of your outings together about how he has always been somewhat shy and nervous as a child. In his first year in high school, the school counselor spoke to him about how she noticed that his anxiety is impairing his ability to perform at school. Andrew said that he has always been reluctant to speak up in class and even in church youth group. He said that he does not like to go to any of his friends' parties. Andrew reported that lately, whenever he is in a social situation, as in class or church, he suddenly becomes very frightened, feeling his heart pound, and feels danger coming about. Andrew said that he was very worried about not doing well at school and that he would amount to anything in life. He would not amount to anything in life. He said that he worries a lot about what people think of him, especially the people he doesn't know, and some of his friends about how about his own health, thinking that something was wrong with his body. Tell me, what's going on with Andrew? Probably social anxiety. What's going on with him that tells you that? He can't face people. He feels like there is a danger coming, like dooming feeling, a doom-like feeling. What else? He worries a lot. Yeah. So people with social anxiety, this is key. People with social anxiety, they actually have negative self thinking They have negative thoughts of themselves and a distorted idea of other people towards them. Yes, yes, yes. What else is going on with Andrew? Anything else you want to highlight? What can you help Andrew with? Remember, I put some points there. From what you caught in our discussion, how can you help Andrew? So to help him separate reality from delusions. What are his delusions? Okay, so maybe there are inconsistencies. Maybe he can tell you as you collect information that he doesn't actually think everyone is against him or doesn't like him or talks bad about him. Or maybe he thought that one time and he was surprised that it wasn't the case. There could be some exceptions. Okay. What else? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. Think strength-based. Think strength-based. He has friends. Yeah, he has friends. Exactly. So those are your friends. Are you okay with them? Yes, I'm okay with my friends because a social anxious person is not okay with people they don't know, but they feel okay. They can go out, and this was what can throw people off is like you have social anxiety and you go out every week with your friends. Yeah, with my friends. I can go out with my friends. In fact, people who have social anxiety can and do use their friends as a buffer in their social events that they have to attend. What can you do? You're a servant, and Andrew has come to talk to you. So recommend some of the positive statements that he could be thinking about, and it would be great if you can draw some of those he can come up with himself. Okay? Okay, and if he tells you just I do want to make sure that they they like me. Who is not? But it's a good trail. We can figure this out, but be careful because sometimes we pathologize people. Oh, he's seeking attention. Who's not? But it's more than just seeking the attention. You have negative thoughts. Good, good. Yeah. I want you to think really, you are a servant and you have someone who says, I'm not performing well at school. I don't want to do any of my presentations. I want to drop out of school. I just hate it when I'm around people. What are you going to do? Sure. And then, yeah. So explore and collect. Yeah. Good, good. Open up the circle, please. That's the point I want to make here. You cannot help people all by yourself. You have to start in the discussion, opening up the circle. Who else knows about this? Did you talk to your parents about this? Does your father of confession know about this? Did you see a physician about this? Are you taking medication for this? You see, like 4 or 5 questions of just opening up circles, right? And then what would be your next action? Huh? So what have you done, or what have been advised, like what has been the advice for you to do, and so on. And then if they keep coming back and things are getting worse, they keep coming back to you and talking, things are not getting any better, then you have to lead them somehow without breaking their trust to say, why don't you and I just go and talk with, like, talk to your parents or talk to Abuna or talk to, I don't know who else you'll talk to, probably those two, yeah. Because you got to open up the circle because some people who struggle from social anxiety will not get better unless they see a psychotherapist. Okay, and sometimes they even have to take some meds, depending on the severity of the issue. And to hold that back from them because you're just talking with them is actually harmful. You get what I'm saying? So yes, you want to help, and yes, but as a servant who cares, you care also holistically. There are other people that need to be brought into this picture. If you really want, if this is a brother of yours or a sister of yours, you're not just going to see them hurt. There needs to be a bigger circle of care. Okay, excellent. So today was my last quote unquote lecture. I may have to come back on the 29th. I may have to come back either 28th or 29th, but Abuna Butros will pick it up from here. He will teach you skills of counseling, and he will teach you physical as well as cognitive development. There is a case online that I put under session number 1. That's it's case for John. And I encourage you to go through the exercise. You don't have to do it, but I'll tell you this. If you actually do it, it's going to help you digest a lot of the stuff we're doing. And it's going to help you exercise the learning that is done in class and through the readings. Make sure you read the chapters. Dedicate some time during the week to flip through the books, to read, to take the best learning out of it. Looking forward to your meeting with Abuna Butros, God willing, next week. And the time after is going to be a Saturday. So make sure the 28th of October, I think it's the 28th of October, that you are available, because that will be the exam day. That's when you actually do the role play. You will be teaching, and then you will do a role play where you'll be in a group of 3s. One will do the counselor, one will do the student or the youth, one will do the evaluator, and then you will rotate. And that will be your deliverable for the course. That's it. But in order to do that, you have to review the stuff we talked about. The case studies are meant to help you through practical examples, because you're going to run through one of them in groups of 3s. Your feedback is always very important to us. Feel free to text me privately. Tell me what's working. What would you like change? What's not working? I always want to hear from you. If this is engaging, I want you to tell me what's engaging in it. And if there is something where you think, Abuna, this would be better if you were to do it this way, by all means, feed me. Give me that feedback. It's very important. There will be a formal feedback at the end of the course, but that doesn't mean we have to wait to the end of the course. You could still text me privately, and you could still let me know how things are going. Okay, we're good? So Abuna, there is a syllabus online under this course. If you go, you will see what Abuna will cover, mainly cognitive development and physical development. So those will be your 2. And then he will be talking about counseling skills. Thank you very much. You may go in peace. The peace of God be with you. Thank you.